Okay, well, listen, let's kick off. Thank you so much for your input. Keep throwing us information through the session, because we want to make sure that everything we're saying really helps you to kind of get the answers that you need. About 30, two on the data team, over 200. Over 200! Wow. Okay. Well, the good thing is that everything that we're going to show you today is very, very scalable, and it doesn't really matter about your team size. But what it does do is, if you've got a small team, it enables them to really get a handle on everything that's going on with the organization, all in one place, all at the same time. Brilliant. Okay, Iz, shall we get going? Lovely. So Iz is going to be in charge of the slides today. Iz is my colleague. He is our operations manager, our data pioneer, data scientist in training, but he's actually built so many of the integrations that we're going to show you with the no code, and he does an incredibly technical job at our organization, but always with a smile, and he's always like at the front of our customer service support as well. And the key thing that we're going to be focusing in on today is about live user data and how to handle live user data. So Iz is our real center point for flagging to everybody else in the organization when that live data is coming in, and helping to steer us through what we actually do with it. So what we're going to talk about today is those kind of quick and easy and actionable feedback loops using no-code tools. At Carefree, we're a digital charity tech startup. So a little bit of information about us. We use the unsold hotel rooms within the hospitality industry to provide breaks to unpaid carers. It's a bit of a matching proposition that requires building lots and lots of digital pathways. So to get carers referred to our service, we work with lots of local authorities and care support organisations. So we have to create ways and means of collaborating with each other that requires very little effort from everybody's part, and doesn't take a lot of kind of heavy lifting to be able to integrate those systems. So by the very nature of what we're doing, no code was a great route for us, because it allows so many different organisations to very seamlessly integrate together. We also provide a self-referral tool for unpaid carers to be able to easily digitally identify themselves, get access to our service, and we'll be showing you a little bit more about that and how we've adjusted our product to respond to user feedback later on in this presentation. And the third piece, of course, is working with the hospitality industry and building pathways for them to be able to gift their excess supply to us. That bit's a bit more complicated. We did a mini test run last week with a travel partner that was tremendously successful, and we'll show you a little bit of data about that too during the presentation. But we'll keep things rolling forward for the moment. So, muscles. Always wanting to start off at any presentation with an unusual topic, but when we think about building user feedback loops, we really want to focus in on what muscles are we trying to strengthen within our organization. You know, whether it's the way that data links together, how we're able to listen to our users, how we're able to kind of give our users a voice in what changes that we're going to make, and being really quick and simple and seamless in our ability to actually make those changes. So having systems that really help us to help them. What we're going to run through today, if we can roll forward on the next slide, is your live delivery feedback loop. So I'm sure for a lot of organizations, you know, you're very focused on user research piece when you understand your service for your users, what needs are, and what's the system you might be using would be prototype testing, think aloud exercises, and market research. So the feedback that you're gathering there is really about kind of building a picture of what the users need. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you know, once you've been delivering your social intervention for a little while, you'll also be focused on evaluation. So really trying to understand that broader social impact level. Have we managed to improve a carer's well-being? Have we strengthened their digital access or digital inclusion? Have we broken down social isolation? But those sorts of data points really reflect like much more around your theory of change and how user behaviors have kind of helped you to see that change at a kind of social level, social impact level. But the golden nuggets we find are really when you think about kind of feedback in a live delivery scenario. And that means that it's like a completely uncontrolled environment. You don't know when people are going to be getting in touch with you. You don't know what their questions and queries are going to be. And so you're really able to uncover how your users are behaving, how they're responding to your product, and if you are really meeting their needs in real time. And it also gives you a great guide for how you can improve, make product improvements to make life easier for users, and also show you where you're going wrong in a very, very real way. And we kind of have a big belief at Carefree that kind of customer service counts, and it's a very, I guess it's a more corporate way of thinking about things. When you think about that kind of customer service frontline, in terms of your service delivery, but actually, like, that's the real touch point that your users have with your service is, when they've sent you an email, when they've spoken to somebody on the phone, and being able to handle all of that in a really, really consistent manner is really important for how you're touching their lives. So, building the loop. I'm going to run you through 4 slides now with the 4 stages of how we build a loop, and then going to hand over to Iz, and he will show you some of these kind of mysterious no-code tools in action. But the first piece that we think about when we're building a loop is really about capturing insights. And for many organizations, there will now be multiple ways in which users can contact us. It could be through email, it could be through telephone, and depending on how digital your service is, it might be through web chat, social media, SMS, and you'll find that your organization is all the time having to deal with like lots of different incoming messages from lots and lots of different platforms. And what we really wanted to be able to do was to bring all of that information into one place so that we could handle it a bit more easily. We chose a tool called Front for this. There's other companies out there, Superhuman is one of them. But what it essentially does, it means that you can have like an inbox which captures not just email, but any direct messages from Facebook or Twitter. And you can respond when you reply on Front. You'll be replying directly to those channels. So you're able to build a really live feedback loop just in one place. And that also means that you're able to understand everything that's going on in your organization. If you've only got one person like we have, like Iz, sitting here, he's able to get a handle on all of these different platforms in a way that's like very manageable for him within his workday. And we always say, like, your staff are your users too, so finding solutions that work for your staff is incredibly important. You'll also, if you spy very, very quickly, you'll see as we just flip back a second, you'll see that, they've got a little thing here showing like where other team members can comment on what's happening. And, user feedback will fall into a few different forms. It could be that it's a question that just requires a response with a help article. It might be that it's a suggestion about something that they can improve your product, or it could be something where they're actually having trouble accessing your service and you need to be able to react and respond to it. So being able to pass out that information to other team members really, really quickly was something that we wanted to make sure just happened as regular practice within our organization. So that's the capturing insights piece. If we move forwards into the next step around processing the data, many of you will already be using contact relationship management systems in some way, shape, or form. And what that does essentially is make sure that, with every user, you'll be able to track how they've interacted with your service, what's happened in the past, and where they're up to in their user journey of using your product or service, and if they need following up or what follow-up actions need to be taken. So it could be that a carer is inquired to us saying, hey, when a break's going to come back online, and it will just flag within our contact relationships management system, hey, this person's owed an email, to give them a response to that. But we wanted to take our repository of data a step further, and we also wanted to ensure that we weren't just looking at things at an individual level, that we were able to really gather collective insights in. And for that, we use a tool called Herald. Now, Iz will show you a little bit of Herald. We have a little bit of a problem of what we can show you today on the Herald front, because all of our data in Herald is actually data from live users that we can't share. So we're going to have to patchwork what we show you out of Herald. But just to give you a real feel for the functionality or what it provides within our organization, it means that we can group together user feedback really easily in terms of tagging. If we've got lots of users flagging an accessibility issue, we can tag all that together. We can see what product changes need to be made or how we want to make improvements. And if you're an organization that wants to do a lot of storytelling about your users, it means that you're able to really easily capture quotes and testimonials that you can bring further down the line into your impact reporting. And then finally, and I guess this would apply more to kind of digital charities, is you can actually create like a public roadmap for what changes you've made in response to what your users have been telling you, how you've made those changes. And the third piece of the jigsaw puzzle, in terms of how we process the data, is through a tool called Databox. So you'll probably have heard of data visualization tools like Tableau, for example. Databox is a bit more of a no-code tool because you can plug lots of different data in from lots of different sources really quickly and easily without much hassle. But it's important to be able to maintain that the quantitative picture of what's happened as a result of any changes that you've made to your service based on what you've been hearing from users. So we'll show you that in a little bit as well. The next slide, translating data into decisions. So you'll often hear debates within the sector about responsible technology, that we want to be kind of data informed, not data led in how we determine our service designs. And I think that it's really important for us to highlight that in any process of building a feedback loop, you need to make space and time for decision making. So it might be that some of these things can be really easily resolved because it's just a case of helping your users get to the next stage. If they're stuck on how they should do something, you can ping them a help article, you can chat to them online, but being able to ensure that you're quickly resolving their issues is really, really important. Heat map is a term that kind of is introduced me more to in a deeper way, in the sense that it's very easy for the product team or the people working on data within your organization to get overwhelmed if the feedback isn't organized very well and they don't really know what feedback they should be paying attention to. So being able to make sure that you've got like a really, really structured way of how you're organizing your data so that people can see in heat map, what should be a priority, what should go into backlog, what's an urgent issue. It's really important to understand from a heat map perspective what you're dealing with. And then harmonize. With every decision that you make, whether it's a change to your product or your service, there'll be intended and unintended consequences. It's really good to take the time to think about what those intended and unintended consequences could be. So, for example, we're about to show you a live feedback example from our organisation, where we have been building a tool for carers to be able to self-refer into our service. And that self-referral tool involves two stages: a carer presenting kind of a document to show that they are a carer, in terms of if they're in receipt of carer's allowance or that they have some sort of proof of benefit statement. And the second piece is like a digital identity, so a passport or a driver's license. If somebody isn't in receipt of carer's allowance, they can take another route to get self-referred by being referred by another party. So anybody within their community who witnesses in their caring role can write a little reference for them and ping that back to us. But for most carers, when we were building the service, we wanted them to be able to do it in two steps. So just upload that document, that passport document or that driver's license, and a copy of your proof of benefit statements. We actually found that for carers, based on the feedback and the inquiries that are coming into our system, was that a lot of carers who weren't in receipt of carer's allowance wanted to be able to show a different form of proof of caring status. So just giving you an example here of Rose. Rose in this instance, because we've adapted the data, but Rose was inquiring and saying, hey, can I use universal credit? And the way in which we use the front system is to be able to kind of tag me in this and say, hey, Charlotte, is that something that we do? Can she use universal credit? But that would have involved like adapting our service design to be able to kind of broaden what different types of evidence carers could present. So really interesting question for us to be working through. And with Front, we were able to just, really work through that as a team, do some research, get that actioned. And I'm going to hand over to Iz now to show you what came next.
Yeah, I'm just building up on some of Charlotte's earlier points. So we early on knew that we needed a platform that allowed us to respond to our users in a way that was quick and allowed us to provide quite an agile service. So we weren't versed with whether or not we could provide universal credit as a form of carer's allowance. But that was, after some light research, something that we found out that we could do. Having this all hosted on Front allowed us to keep it here for reference, and it would allow us also to respond to the incoming query quickly. Front also allows us to integrate with Intercom and Pipedrive if we needed to check on any other things related to this particular contact, as well as Cloud Talk, which would allow us to call them if we needed to for any type of urgency. Moving back to Herald, so this is inadvertently a great piece of feedback that we've got on the processes that we have in place to self-refer carers. And if we were to copy this as part of the customer quote, we've got the contact name and what topic it's related to. So in this case, it's related to self-referral proof. And then just a note to add some contextual knowledge. We'd then be able to add this quote to our library of different quotes and feedback that we get for our product and service, so that we can get a quantitative sort of look at what are some of the most important features or bits of feedback that we're getting from our users. In this particular scenario, we saw that after we were able to accept this bit of documentation as proof of caring, we updated our help articles, informed the carer obviously that they were able to do this, and then did a general update on our website. And whilst we can't ascribe causality to that, I think my internet just was verified, and we were other carers and other users to submit this type of documentation. We did see an uptick in the number of verified self-referrals. As Charlotte was mentioning earlier, so we also had a mini launch of breaks really recently, and we really used that as an opportunity to see what kind of issues that our carers were facing. And so this allowed us to get a sense check of some of the type of things that we can improve in our product or in our operational flow, so that we can feed that back into the product team for future development, which coincides with this feedback loop over here.
So essentially the first tool that we showed you, which is this kind of universal inbox for the organization that is automatically integrated with Pipedrive, our CRM system, Herald, our kind of repository for user feedback, all of these different ways in which anything that comes into one system will automatically show up in another system, means that we're really able, using no-code tools, to have a very clean picture within different platforms, so that we can use these different platforms for different things. So when Iz is showing you the things that kind of in the Databox there of, you know, these kind of live performance, like this live performance data, a lot of that is just automatically being fed through from the systems that we've been creating, because whenever we've chosen a no-code tool to work with, we've been checking that no-code tool works with Google Sheets, works with Pipedrive, works with, really is, if you're able to select products that are already ready to integrate together, you can make sure that like all these different parts of your organization are able to sync together very, very easily, so that, if you're on the kind of the impact and evaluation side, you can be having that Databox dashboard to hand at any one point in time. But if you're on the customer service side, you'll also have that kind of front inbox and the Pipedrive to be able to track how successful your customer service is. So Iz has a little bit of a loop going on there in terms of the screen of showing you like how these things have we've joined these different things together. And just to wrap up from us so that we've got sufficient time for questions, because we're about 20 minutes in now, a few tips and tricks. So any service design changes that you want to make, do test them before you put them out there. It's really important just to kind of give anything that you're doing a test run to see how your users respond to it, or see how your team responds to it, so that you can check that it works before you go big with any changes that you're making. Your staff are your users too, so finding tools that are really easy for them to use and that they can adopt into their everyday workflow and that saves them time is really, really key to getting people to use data more actively in their everyday workflow. You know, the fact that all our staff have to do is kind of click a button for a piece of feedback or data to be integrated into Herald means that they're not having to log things in different spaces and separately, and it can become like a very automatic activity for them. And if you make things easy for people, they will do it. They'll follow that lead. Don't forget to thank your users. You know, any user that is giving you some insights that are going to support your service, let them know you want your users to be continually involved in what you're doing. And it makes such a difference to be able to just go back to them and say, hey, thank you for that piece of feedback. We did this, and this, you know, based off what you told us. And then staying flexible and accountable. You know, anything that, you know, we all have like organizations that have the ability to change or transition at different rates and different times, different sizes. And, you know, sometimes you're able to make a change quickly, sometimes you're not. But we always find that if we're flexible, if we find a kind of a shortcut manual solution or a patchwork solution, it's better to just try and do that piece or that thing so that the user gets what they need. And then you can kind of make sure that you've backlogged effectively the bigger piece of work that you probably needed to do to fix the issue that they were highlighting. But keeping ourselves accountable to, if a user has highlighted something, that we're actually accountable to delivering on that change that they've suggested to us is kind of, you know, key to making sure that your beneficiaries are always in the lead of what you're doing and letting you know where you should go next. Great, thank you. Any questions or stuff that people want us to run back over through? Ben Ray, have you managed to get any charity discounts on the no-code tools? Yes, we have. And yeah, Front is probably one of our most expensive tools, but I think we have a 50% discount on Front. There is a huge amount of goodwill without the within the tech community, and particularly with these kind of software providers, to be able to support charities. So they absolutely do discounts, and they're very open to being approached about discounts as well. So even if they don't have something publicly advertised, do go and talk to them. You know, we use about 40 no-code tools. Is it between 30 and 40 no-code tools across our technical architecture? So we really, like, we used to be a kind of 90% coded organization. We transitioned to 90% no code. So we use lots of different tools to deliver lots of different parts of our service. But actually that's been hugely cost effective for us overall. So instead of needing to have like a 6-person engineering team, we have kind of a base cost of around £2,000 a month in terms of what we spend for those 40 tools to develop different parts of our service. And it means that we have like a single fixed cost base level that we can, that it doesn't matter, you know, if we're scaling up our operation, we'll probably go from about 2,000 users to 10,000 users this year. It's not going to cost us any more money to do that. And that's the real value for money piece that we're able to maintain within the organization. What about an integration with Charity Log CRM? We haven't used Charity Log CRM, and so with every platform, they will tend to. So, for example, Databox will have a number of platforms that they integrate with. Front will have a number of platforms that they integrate with. When you're choosing which CRM system that you use, it's good to just really vet that CRM system for how many integrations they have. I would expect, or I would be a little bit concerned with Charity Log, that perhaps they wouldn't have the engineering team in-house to be able to support building lots and lots of integrations with lots and lots of different platforms. And that's why we ended up working with a more commercial sector CRM called Pipedrive, because we know that they are by nature of their business building lots of integrations with lots of other platforms. Ben, again, have you been able to use all of these platforms together using inbuilt integrations, or yeah, we use a lot of Zapier. Absolutely, to link it all together, and some of them do fit together without that. But when you think, the Zapier piece is really about triggering, you know, our understanding of people moving through different stages of the customer journey. So, you know, if a carer has been invited to book a break, have they booked a break, that, you know, Zapier is really pushing through all of the automated communications that are linked to that. how you test tools with service users. Do you have a cohort of go-to testers? We have a really lovely response from the carers that we go to when it comes to testing things, and our base method has been to, so for example, when we did the mini release of breaks last week, we'll send a message out to everyone in our database saying, hey, we're going to be doing this test. If you're available at these times for this bit, would you give us a hand? And we'll narrow that down. So for example, with the mini release of breaks, we knew we were going to be giving away about 50 breaks, and we were projecting a 1 in 7 conversion rate. So we basically capped testing rate at 350 users, but all of those users responded to us in terms of signing up for that test within, I think we closed it off after 12 to 18 hours. We had 125 signups within an hour. So we've done a lot of stuff on trying to make our systems really responsive. In whether it's the kind of the MailChimp piece of like making sure that the DNS systems work effectively so that it definitely does hit people's inbox, to the fact that because we're so proactive on customer support with our users and using things like Intercom or the web chat support to keep in touch with our users, we've got another tool called Beamer, Buongiorno, where we can send video updates. It's actually meant that most of our users will genuinely get together for testing on anything like at the drop of a hat, and they'll be really excited and willing to do it. How do we keep track of all the 40 tools? Yeah, so we have there's a tool called is it in Miro or Lucidchart? Our tech architecture, I think it's in Lucidchart actually.
Lucidchart, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we can't show you our tech architecture, I'm afraid, because our CTO would go ballistic at us. But essentially, we map everything out within Lucidchart. And as you probably could flash the Miro board for the Impala Breaks mini release.
Yeah, let's see if I can find that.
So we draw everything out. We really, and actually, I mean, I guess everybody's still working remotely now, but almost everything we do will be mapped out so that we can clearly see what triggers what in terms of those interactions. Lucidchart is a really interesting tool because it gives you a lot of, it's designed for like basically people developing kind of software and engineering systems to be able to map things out, but it's a bit of an expensive tool. It's a bit clunky, and I wouldn't say that it's necessary. You can find other ways to draw things out. So Miro is certainly something we want. You may want to zoom in on it, is to be able for people to be able to see bits. So, for example, drawing out that kind of user journey of what we were asking people, what we were testing this time. So first of all, the kind of the email communications, what was going to happen with the different apps at different points, the content of those emails flowing through to, sorry, we're still in the email phase, moving forwards. Yeah, and then you get to see when it transitions from email into like what the user will be seeing at every step of the journey, in terms of what actions we'll want them to take in terms of this is the kind of prototype of what we were testing. This was the booking hub that we were asking people to convert. And so when we were laying out, what the copy would be, what the actions would be, what buttons we needed carers to press, we were drawing all of that out on Miro. Has anybody in session tried using different no-code tools within their organization before? Right, so yeah, really at the beginning of the journey, Chris. Okay, I would definitely invite people to experiment with this space. It does buy you a lot of capability, within your organization for very little cost. So, most tools will be somewhere around $8 a month. That it's not an expensive way to operate. It's a very low cost way to operate, and the range of what you can get from that is really extraordinary. There's other tools like NAC is a database tool that is really, really exciting. And we've been using NAC to be able to kind of really build, really create kind of an index of data from lots of different sources that we can then manage really, really effectively. How was the decision made to move from code to no code? Though that, yeah, Becky, that was something that I really steered us towards. When we were doing our beta test, I designed pretty much everything in Airtable, using Airtable, which was like one of the first no code tools to hit the market. And I'm sure a lot of people will be quite familiar with Salesforce. Where Airtable was different was, we had, it kind of had lots of plugins. So, for example, it had like Twilio and SendGrid. So, it meant that we could like easily create triggers to be able to text users or to email users en masse and kind of take them through a journey and without having to kind of build anything ourselves. And so when we were there, I guess like 2 years ago. So I guess like that was really, really quite an exciting place to be. And actually the potential for no code as new software providers have entered the market, we've kind of done that journey with them in terms of what new capabilities can we build into our organization through these new products that are coming online. And it just builds a lot of kind of, you can be, it kind of creates just a very, very professional and seamless edge for your organization in terms of, people using our services and our products wouldn't realize that we're just putting a pretty face on them, that we haven't built them ourselves. But there isn't really, in our minds, there isn't really a need for us to build lots of custom tech, because most of the types of actions we're seeking to take in terms of our service delivery isn't innovation stuff. It's all just, service delivery. What tools did you use for gathering, for requirement gathering decisions? Yeah, really great point, Jana. So that was basically like a lot of mapping. So drawing out kind of what user journeys we thought we were going to need, and that took us about like 200 plus user journeys, and then we would like really track through what business processes would need to be there, and then find tools that would fit those business processes. And communicating this to stakeholders, actually we did a lot of that stuff ourselves in-house, because we had a good sense of what stakeholders would need, and we just got them to road test bits and pieces of what we were doing very early on. So for example, with our CSO referral partners, opening up a new member space for them, getting them to try it out, and if the feedback from them was going to be poor, we knew that we wouldn't have invested too much money in building it, so we could do it again if we needed to, but thankfully we haven't had to. Yep, Front integrates with our telephone services. So we use Cloud Talk as our telephone service, and we're able to route people through to different organizations. And it's also because Front and Pipedrive are integrated with Cloud Talk, it means that all of our contacts from within our CRM system will automatically be there as well. So very, very lovely piece of knitting together for those three tools, and Iz was the person that did all of that. Do you ever face any criticism over having too many tools? How do you answer this? So the only people that would criticize us for having too many tools would be your internal staff team, if they were having trouble getting their heads around using too many different things. I guess what we've, like, from an outsider perspective, they won't see or feel that, people won't know how you're executing your service. They'll just know that you're getting the service. So it really is about how you manage those questions internally. We're very keen to block things off so that, it really is, tools are contained to people's jobs functions in terms of what do they need to use, what do they need to know how to use. So we do have, actually, could you just go to our Notion page for the Office wall and the kind of Carefree toolkit?
Sure.
So like having a centralized internal knowledge database has been really key for enabling the organization to access all of this. And again, like Iz has been brilliant at building so much documentation to make sure that there is that central fountain of knowledge for everybody. And so we have a live toolkit that anybody can access. So
just getting it up.
To bring it up. Great. So people will have like a very clear list here of like what different thing are you using for what different purpose. And then when they go into the systems overview, so for example, if you click into Front, you've probably populated Front, haven't you, on what they use it for, how to use it. There'll be a little guide for all of the tool members team members on how to use it. But when we do kind of an onboarding, we'll only pick about 3 to 5 tools for a new staff member that's quite essential for them. So that would be using Front as their email client, not their Gmail account, because we want to be able to share and collaborate on correspondence. It would be Linear, which is our project management system in terms of like how we assign workflow and tasks across the organization. It would be Notion, which is this lovely internal knowledge database here where we do a lot of our project work. And Pipedrive for the CRM system is something that's essential for everyone to use. But with lots of those other tools that you see listed there, only a few of us would use certain parts of those systems. I'm curious to know how, when you've been building feedback loops within your organization, have you focused on the customer service journey, or has it been more about that kind of startup phase and the end phase of evaluation? Is there anyone else that's really focusing in on that live delivery feedback loop with what they're doing? Doesn't look like it. Wow, we're the lone stars on that one. Is customer service is basically our obsession, and yeah, it's I think it would be I think because we're a new organization building things for the first time, we knew that the best way that we could learn effectively would be to develop that kind of customer service loop and make sure that was the thing that was leading our future product development. But I do think that it's like incredibly empowering for organizations to be able to bring all those data points into one place and really align their kind of operational delivery from a data perspective all the way through. We've only got a couple of minutes left, so if there's any further questions, please do get in contact with us. And if you'd like to follow us, Carefree Space is our URL, so carefreespace.org, on Twitter, on Facebook. We are contributing a lot to the Catalyst initiative. We're huge fans of the work that they're doing, so you can see some of our service recipes on that platform. And we're very happy to help anybody out that's looking at doing this for the first time. Bethia, we've struggled to support delivery orgs to actually change what they do in response to feedback rather than see it as an affirmation. How do you develop a culture internally to do this? I think openness is key. So we have some core business values. Maybe you want to respond to this as well, but you know, we talk about flexibility to drive delivery, being transparent and accountable. So we've always been embracing of you know, the ideas of negative feedback and what we can learn from negative feedback. And we're also we see everything as, I think from a culture perspective, we do see a lot as an experiment and a learning journey. And so, you know, it's not about getting things right first time. It's about really trying to understand what would be right and how we can build towards something that's right. And what's quite empowering for that is that using Herald, we're able to build quite a strong product backlog so that we know what we're going to be doing or what we're going to be changing, and we can track that through.
Yeah, I mean, just building up on that, we find great value in actually sort of looking at user behavior as well as taking user feedback. So if we find that, you know, users might be dropping off at a particular point on our site or at a particular process, then we'll take that as feedback on we should improve that set product or process to make sure that they don't. It is how we do it.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I guess so much has been skewed towards like producing positive monitoring and evaluation outcomes in the past when it came to kind of that donor reporting cycle. Again, just like, you know, whenever you're developing a new service from scratch, you're kind of setting the expectation with your donors and with your funders that this is a learning process and it's an iterative process, and you're going to be making changes, and people need to be flexible and adaptive to that, in terms of, you know, that there's value in the learning process, even if it doesn't quite get the results that you wanted to have. Right, I think we're coming up to the end. I'm seeing some other things in the chat rather than the Q&A about Zapier linked to Salesforce, Text Marketer. Yep. Yeah, we found that Salesforce was quite an expensive product in terms of how the marketplace operates, in terms of those separate charging you for integrations with different things. So that's why we went with Pipedrive, but I'm sure a lot of organizations will be needing to build those loops with Salesforce and Zapier. Yeah, Airtable, absolutely brilliant. Love those guys. They have a huge educational program. They're brilliant in supporting charities. They're really, really a fantastic charity. Yeah, Becky, on the surveys piece, again, actually, we've built quite a lot of our product using Typeform as well, just in terms of integrating that into the user journey. So if you're able to kind of really tag your Typeform to people's names, and like, so that they can kind of, you know, with the hidden fields function, so you're saying, hey Becky, thanks for, you know, thanks, how are you today? Really, really wonderful to be able to keep that service personalized. Oh, wonderful. Thanks so much, Giselle. Thanks for tuning in. Great, wonderful, Tom. Well, we look forward to seeing you all at different parts of the program. So please take care, and thank you.